Thank you so much for joining us on this evening. We are glad to be back with Mental Health and the Sacred Sanctuary. I'm Reverend Dr. LaTasha Morgan, coming to you from the Office of Christian Care and Counseling here at Alfred Street Baptist Church. And we're coming with a special episode, Finding Hope and Healing, Navigating Grief 365, and I guess 66 days where applicable. So thank you for joining us this evening. Come on in the room. Listen, you will need your journals for this episode because I have two amazing guests with me on tonight. They will be dropping some amazing nuggets, some experiences, some personal experiences, and you are going to want to capture this information as you navigate your own personal journey. Remember, this is Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary. And this is a sacred space centered where God dwells. And this is the episode that we typically come to you every month to help you with your mental health and wellness as we integrate our faith and navigate this life journey. So with me, let me take a moment and introduce my two amazing guests. I am so excited for this conversation. So immediately to my left, I have Ms. Markella. Did I get it right?
Yes. Yes.
I have been practicing, making sure that I got that name right. She goes by Miss Mac for short, but Ms. Markella Prather. She's here and she has a cool IG identity called the Grief Chair. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Next to her is Ms. Angela Liggans. Those at Alfred Street are very familiar with Miss Angela. Miss Angela Liggans, she has a very cool IG as well.
Building the
queen within. See, I've been practicing too much, trying not to mess it up. So we have the Grief Chair and Building the Queen Within. Mm-hmm. And these two ladies are going to help navigate our conversation on this evening around grief. And we're not just talking about grief for the holidays. We're talking about navigating and journeying through life with grief every single day. Mm-hmm. Now, take a note of the following, because we are going to have a number of offerings from Alfred Street for you as we come into this holiday season. So we'll have this episode on tonight. Join us for our Kaya experience on the 5th. You'll be able to tune into that via live, virtual, or come in person to the sanctuary. They will have an episode around navigating and surviving grief through the holidays. So stay tuned to our website so that you can take part in all of the offerings that we have. Because as I was reminded, there is not enough space. You can't have enough space for grief. And we want to make sure that we are giving every audience, every person that connects with Alfred Street, a space to be able to do so. So with that being said, welcome, ladies. Welcome to Mental Health in the Sacred Sanctuary. Thank you for your yes. I am so glad that you're here. So here's my opening question. As a result of your grief, and this is a way to be able to kind of introduce yourselves, as a result of your grief and your experiences around that, what are you becoming? What can you share with us as you share something about yourself around that question? What are you becoming?
I'll go first.
Okay.
In this moment, I'm becoming better. In this moment, I'm becoming an author. I will become a business owner, and I will continue to heal in my becoming.
I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
yes.
I will say that I am becoming a better child of God, a closer child of God. Like Mac is saying, I've become a business owner. I am a life coach now, and I am walking in my purpose.
Wow, how beautiful.
I know.
Let me just take a moment because the topic that we are discussing on this evening, it may be triggering. It may evoke some feelings and emotions around your own grief experience. So we invite you to do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. There will be a live chat moderator. So if you need some further assistance, we can definitely address that in the chat. But if you need to take a step away, that's fine. If you need to shed a tear along with us, that's fine. But whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, please, please, please make sure you do so. We need tissue already.
Just in case.
Just in case.
So I think it might be helpful if we begin just kind of defining grief, just so that people will be able to walk away with a working definition. I like to do that pretty often. I have a very short definition for it, but you can add to that, and let's see if we can build on that. And so my very short definition is deep sorrow. Deep sorrow as a result of some instance of loss. We will probably talk a lot about death because of our shared experiences, but we know that grief and loss can come as a result of other things. I've used this analogy quite often in this space. Perhaps you have a cherished necklace that was left to you in legacy, right? Passed down, and you lose it. That's a grief and loss event,
That's grief.
right? Especially if you never recover it, right? So it can be anything, divorce, like the ending of something, perhaps without your permission, right? And we definitely know that death is the one that hits us pretty hard because God doesn't ask for our permission. And even if he did, we wouldn't oblige.
Right.
No,
We wouldn't oblige. You said, no, God, not yet, not yet, not now.
Not now.
So what would you add to that definition around grief from your own
I
experience?
want to say I think deep sorrow is probably your top-notch answer right there. It is what it is. It's the deepest sorrow that I've ever experienced in my life. So I agree with you 100%, Reverend LaTasha.
I like to say love misplaced. I
Say
can't
more
find
about
it.
that.
Yeah, so it's just misplaced and I can't find it.
Ooh,
So that's how I summarize my grief. Yeah.
that's beautiful. That's
I like
beautiful.
that. I like that.
I often liken grief to love, right? Or the absence of, right? You not being able to love a particular individual in the moment like you normally do, right? And it trying to find a safe landing place on the inside of your body, right? Like your body knows that something should be there, something is missing, and it doesn't know how to feel it. So I love that you said that. And so it is a deep sorrow, which I think is one major reason that makes grief so very difficult and long-term to navigate. What would you say to that?
I think so because it's a feeling. So when it comes as a feeling first, like you said, it's something that you can't find anymore. So when it's a feeling, it's kind of found. And then you don't want to know what that feeling is because it doesn't feel good. So it's kind of like hiding from something you can't hide because you're feeling it. And so in a way, you kind of gotta feel it to process it and understand how to navigate it and how to find all its ups and downs inside of it. But it's a feeling for me.
Definitely have to sit in that emotion of grief. You can't run from it. I know over my experiences as I'm running from it, the further I run from it, the closer. Like I'm trying to run far, and it's just right there. It's right in my face. It won't go anywhere.
At every turn, right?
Every turn, I can't get away from it. So
Yes.
Yeah. And so I really don't want to get into the conversation about depression.
Please get into it.
But in some instance, right, there definitely is a connection with depression and grief. And again, it is either how life deals it to us and we have to just kind of recover or attempt to recover from it, perhaps depression is something that you were already struggling with, and then the grief, particularly in this case, the death of someone, has
Right.
just kind of exacerbated that. But and so people really, and so I'm saying this to say that people typically understand this deep sorrow if you think about the level of depression.
Yeah.
And depression has a range, right? There are people that can function well with depression,
Right.
and there are others that don't function at all,
Right.
right? And the sadness that they feel is nothing that on their own they can move through.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would say grief is kind of, depending on where, most of the time though, grief is kind of right in that middle. Initially, you can't move through it. With time, and no, I'm not saying that time heals.
It doesn't.
Because I don't think it does.
Right.
We learn how to
Right.
heal,
Learn
right?
how to.
But we definitely get to a place where we find ourselves kind of moving on this spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
So you may not always be extremely sad, and maybe
Right.
sometimes, you find yourself in the middle, sometimes on the lighter end, but it definitely is a range and a scale, in my opinion, that's constantly shifting.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
It's always a shift within grief.
Yeah.
Just like yesterday. I had a bad day yesterday. You guys probably wouldn't have known that I had a bad day, but I had a terrible day yesterday. As I was on my way to work, instead of taking the exit to come to work, I went straight to the cemetery.
Wow.
Straight to the cemetery.
Wow.
No reason why. I just needed to have a conversation with my mom. That's what I needed.
Yeah.
But I had a horrible day, and so I decided to go. But the day before,
Yeah.
I was happy-go-lucky. You would have never thought anything was wrong with me.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the day. It depends on the hour. It depends on the song that's on the radio.
Yeah.
It depends on the person that you run into.
Yeah.
It depends on the food, the restaurant that you pass. Like it just
scent that you smell.
Anything. A
Right?
color.
Yeah.
Blue is triggering to
Yes.
me sometimes. Not all the
Yeah,
time.
okay.
Because you got blue on. But blue is triggering to me
Sorry.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Those triggers are real.
They're very real.
Yeah.
My depression has taught me, because I now trust how I feel, and I trust when my depression is heightened, I know I either need to grieve or I'm still grieving.
Ah, that's
And
really good.
how I can learn it is when I'm not so depressed, sometimes I realize I've not forgotten about them, but I've been in emotion where everything is flowing.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm not in my depression. So my grievance isn't so loud in my head. So once I realize I don't want to get up, I don't want to do these things, I'm just in this thing,
Yeah.
it's because something hasn't been touched. And I mean grievance about, like you said, if it's a job you didn't get, a death of a loved one,
Yeah.
but something is making my body show me I'm depressed. So now I need to figure that out so then I can get up and then figure out how to walk with the depression.
That's some really
That's good.
great
Yeah.
insight.
That's good.
It
Yeah.
takes a lot of practice.
I'm
good.
So you have
sure.
to literally always try to over question yourself, but you get to the bottom of, oh, this is this, and this is making this happen,
Yeah.
and this is why this. But each thing goes back to feeling, because I'm feeling everything that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, what grief, all of it is. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how can I feel what I'm thinking?
And so often in when we find ourselves in a space of grief, we want to run from the feeling. We want to do everything else but feel.
But feel it.
But that's going to be the number one. So if you came to me as a clinician, you came to Miss Angela as a coach, you sat in Miss Mac's chair, like that's the number one thing we're going to tell you to do.
Right.
Like you got to
You gotta sit in it.
You got to sit in it.
Can't run from it.
You
have
gotta
to-
sit
you
in
have to
it.
sit in it.
What does that mean to you? You got to sit in it. How would you explain that to someone?
So like Miss Mac said, like when it comes, right, figure out what that is. So like for me yesterday, I was fine when I left my house. I don't know what happened between my home and the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. I have no idea what happened. But the minute that I felt some type of way, I immediately just went straight to where my comfort was at that particular time. So I sat in that emotion at that time because, okay, what's going to make me feel better at this moment?
Yeah.
If it was McDonald's fries, then I would have gone to McDonald's. If it was
Listen.
Starbucks coffee, then I would have gone to Starbucks.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I said, I need to talk to my mom.
Right.
That's what I said. I need to talk to my mom. And I went to the cemetery and I, Indian style, right there at the grave.
It's a great
And
day
I just
too,
sat
right?
there. And I didn't say anything
Yeah.
when I got there. I didn't say anything. I just let the Holy Spirit, I'm just gonna say,
Right.
I just let the Holy Spirit just comfort me.
Yeah.
Because that's what I actually needed.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily I needed to go speak to my mom.
Yeah.
I just
Right.
needed to be in the presence of something.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I was like, this is the Holy
Sounds
Spirit.
like something familiar,
This
right?
is it's
Yeah.
very familiar. I'm here and the wind was blowing, the trees. It's just I was just taking it all
I mean,
in.
and if there could not have been a better day.
It couldn't have been a better
in
day
November,
yesterday.
right?
In
Right,
November.
right,
In November. So yeah, so I just sat there.
yeah.
So that's to
Gotcha.
me, that's what that is. It looks different for everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody. So as a single mother, right? If I'm angry at my kids and I need to get away from them, I probably will go sit in my car and be by myself.
Amen for the car ministry. Thank you for that, Miss Angela. So same question to you, Miss Mack. How would you describe sitting in it to someone?
Honestly,
Honestly.
I would say it's dark. And it's dark. And if you can sum up what darkness means to you, I think it's kind of all of the above. I realized that we know we're scared of the dark in a sense, right? You don't want to go in there, oh, it's dark,
Yeah.
you're going to go the other way.
Yeah.
But that is going to be the darkest place for
Wow.
you. And sitting in that, sometimes for me, it taught me how to be by myself, to sit with the lights off, to know that I can cut the light on anytime I want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it allows you to, when you come out, it's light. So then you know what the darkness look like. So for me, grief is like, I gotta go into the dark again.
Yeah.
Then it's like, all right, I get to come out again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. That's how I sit in it. And sitting in it knows, let me grab my bag and go to the dark room for a little while, and then I'll come back out. As I come out of sitting with it, it is, you come out lighter. So sitting in grief gonna be hard. It's gonna be scary. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be all of those frightening.
Lonely.
Lonely. But the reward is the light.
Yeah.
And whichever, like she said, whatever is your light,
Yeah.
could be God, it could be friends, it could be whatever. I try not
Yes.
to go to food, but it could be anything as
Little
your
treat,
light.
little
Yeah.
treat.
But find your light, and then that's the reward from sitting in it. So it's like,
I like
because we
that.
got to sit in it.
Yeah.
So it's like the reward comes from
Yeah.
the light. So it's a little light. I like to joke, and I tell people when I go to try to explain to them, because I'm a visual person.
Okay.
So it's my depression for me, or grief for me, was literally in the sunken place from Get Out. So it's you always hear and you see something, and it's like, I can see that.
Wow.
I have to get to that.
Yeah.
But right now it's just like, whoa, and it's just like, but I can see it. So that's sitting in grief for me.
Wow. I love how both of you added an empowering aspect to your kind of identification around like sitting in it. And so it's not just, oh, this is something horrendous that's happened to me and that's it. And then whatever happens, happens. At some point, both of you decided like, I get to make a decision.
Yeah.
I get to make a choice on how I'm going to move through, even if it's just this one moment. And I think that's important for all of you all that's watching us. Like, you do have a choice in the matter.
Yes.
It's easier to stay in the dark, right? Because it's sad, it hurts. you're angry with God, let's just tell the truth about a thing. You don't want to be bothered with people giving you church cliches,
Listen.
et cetera, et cetera.
As us, as African Americans, we know how to navigate through the dark if we think about
Absolutely.
it. So
It's in
for
our
us,
genes.
it can kind of be so comfortable that you don't even realize that I've been in the dark so long until
so true.
a light shows up, and then you're like, oh, and it's like, wow. It's like, even for me sometimes, like, go to a beach is a light.
Yeah.
Because we ain't seen it in so long.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah.
see it, you like, oh, it's saying it. It's like a foreign thing, but it's in the Chesapeake or it's right down the street.
Yeah.
So it's like
accessible.
It's like, oh my gosh, you got to find that get out of that dark and stop hanging in it. Stop hanging in the dark too long, because it can turn into
that turns into something.
Absolutely.
something else. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, right, at some point, right, you do need the time to just kind of just attempt to begin to accept what's happened.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like a gut punch.
Yeah.
And you need a moment to kind of recover before you start navigating life again. Okay? So give yourself time. But don't forget to empower yourself. Like you have the power. You have everything you need on the inside of you to do this. No one said it had to be done in 6 months.
Right.
You can ask Miss LaTanya, when people come to me about grief counseling, if this is a brand new experience for you, I typically don't have space for immediate grief, because you need that time. You need that time to just kind of grapple and wrap it around your mind, wrap it around your head, like, oh my God, this is my new reality. This is my new normal.
Yeah.
And running straight to counseling, though I am a very much an advocate for therapy, but going straight to counseling when you haven't given yourself the moment to just accept, it's going to be hard for you to onboard any new tools in that space.
Right.
That's my theory. You know, you may not agree with it, but that's fine. But I just think, like, we need that dark moment.
No.
You really do.
You gotta have it. In order to do anything in this world, you gotta know how to navigate the dark and the light.
I actually appreciate the dark now.
Yeah.
I appreciate the dark moments. Like I said, I don't know what happened between home and Woodrow Wilson, but I appreciated it because it gave me that space to then go somewhere and sit. And it was something that I needed.
Yeah.
It was like a recharge.
Yeah.
The people like put their crystals and all whatever they say.
Yeah.
I am people, okay?
Like whatever
I love it.
like whatever they say, right?
Like
So it was just
cross.
like it was a recharge for me just to sit there, and it was like I got up and I got in my car and I was like, let's do this today.
Right.
It's time to
and
go.
for you to even notice, like, the day before I was fine, and there was no significant event or moment that caused this.
Nothing.
Right, until you got to this familiar space.
Right.
So I think that's a great takeaway. Like, you need to kind of come to an understanding of what your familiar space is. Like, okay, yes, you may be triggered or maybe not so much, but what is your thing?
Right.
Or what are your set of things, right? Because
Right.
it may not just be one thing. All right?
Right. Oh, that was it.
That was good.
That was good.
This is so good. This is so good. All right. So now, I want to know why this topic is important to you. I'd like for each of you to just kind of share. I mean, you're building a brand called The Grief Chair. You're building a brand called Building the Queen Within. But it's all centered around a significant grief moment. Why is this important to you?
Why is grief important?
Yeah. This topic of grief. Yeah.
I would say because as a child, I don't think I understood what grief was. Grief was something that was never talked about.
Okay.
Though people passed away in my family, I don't think there was a moment that anybody set me down as how old was I when DJ passed away? I want to say I was either 12 or 14. I can't remember. I was a teenager when my cousin was killed in a plane crash.
Wow.
And he was my little brother at the end of the day. And the only thing that I remember was my father coming in my room and saying, "Hey, Angela, we got to go down to your grandmother's house because DJ, his dad, and 2 other people are missing." And I'm like, "Missing? Okay, well, let's go." And and that was it. And then when we got there, like, long story short, not trying to drag it out, but long story short, we found out that, he was in the plane. They couldn't find the plane. So immediately, was plane crash. They find the plane. There's nothing there but pieces, basically, at the end of the day. And I remember that. I remember going to the funeral. And I remember moving on with my life.
Wow.
There
No
was
one made
no
space
there was
for-
no space for that, and I understood that the family, ourselves were grieving.
Yeah.
There was a young child, 7 years old, that was killed in a plane crash.
Wow.
That was in my head, that was my little brother.
Yeah.
So there was no space for that, and then I want to say 2 months later, my grandfather then passes away, and it's like there was nothing there to indicate, "Hey, Angela, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
This is why you feel like this."
Yes.
So this topic is very important to me because I want to teach people or help people, not necessarily teach,
Okay.
but help people understand that your grief, that person's grief, because when somebody passes away, everybody and their mama at this point is now your counselor. And everybody and their mama now knows everything about death, right?
Yeah.
But they don't understand your grief. They understand what they went through, but they don't understand
good.
your grief. So I want to give space for people to just come and tell me about your grief.
Okay.
Tell me what's happening with you. I can tell you my story and I can tell you my experiences and I can tell you how I felt, but I want to know how you are feeling at this particular time and then navigate how we can move you through that.
Yeah.
So it's very important to me. So even with my children, they lost a grandmother.
Yeah.
This is literally their first death ever.
Wow.
That I can remember at this point, right?
Yeah.
Or first death that is important and had a very
significant,
a significant impact
Yeah.
on them. So I have now created this space where it's like, are we talking about Mama T today or no? Are we doing that today?
Beautiful.
No, we're not talking about her. Okay, great.
Okay.
They come to me. Is there anything that you want to talk about Mama T today? Yeah, you know what? Matter of fact, I do. So we have now in the family created this safe space where we're able to say, today is not the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it, and this is why. So not only is it a grief space for us, it is now just a safe space
Yes.
in general.
And a healing
healing
space.
space
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Like not just anything navigate, like just solely on, my mother, but it's about life in general.
Yeah.
So I think that's very, very important to just
Absolutely.
bring it into the household. Even if nobody has passed away,
Yeah.
let people understand that grief is not just death.
Yeah.
Grief is, like you said, hey, if you lost something that was significant in your life, a
Right.
ring, a necklace, or anything,
Yeah.
that's a loss.
Yeah.
You go through a grieving,
job, a
a
wife,
husband, a wife,
right?
anything,
Yeah.
a car. Somebody come repossess your car.
Listen.
You are upset.
Thank you, Lord. I'm not on that
So
list.
you literally go through this grieving
Yeah,
process that
yeah.
is so linear in this world, but we'll probably talk about that in a minute, like later on. But you go through this process, you just leave the space open for people.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. I applaud your courage.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crystal snaps.
Yeah.
No, just-
This back.
okay, can you say it again?
I'm sorry, did I?
Sure. What's your interest in this particular topic? So why the grief chair? Why are you merging that together, profession and this experience that you've gone through?
Okay. So my grief stemmed from a traumatic experience.
Okay.
And in that process, I had already was given access to seeing healing in another format, not
Okay.
without grief, but with therapy or being.
And there is a very
yeah.
intimate connection between grief and trauma.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes.
I was on that journey, and then grief hit traumatic.
Okay.
And it became important to me in this one particular moment, I went seeking for it and everything.
Okay.
I even took a job that was at a hospice,
Okay.
just so I can understand what is that thing that goes with that thing with death and grief and this. And it became important to me. For some weird reason, I like watching dark grief things, anything about how to get out of it.
Okay.
And then it took me back to why was it important to me. I saw in my traumatic experience 14 children looking at 14 adults, but they were children too, because we all were grieving the same thing. So nobody couldn't help nobody.
Oh my.
And I was like, I saw that.
Wow.
And that's what made me say,
Yeah.
no matter how far I run, it comes back.
Okay.
Because I was giving the eyesight to see that. I don't know if somebody else saw it, but it's been pressuring me, and it made it so important for me because I got a glimpse to see children need grief therapy the most. Black children need grief therapy the most.
Yeah.
And especially in the way that we saw it, it was just so big that I couldn't just walk away from it.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why it's important to me, because that picture keeps coming back in my head of, it's like a kid,
take a breath with that. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So even the adults, I can see them as kids.
Yeah.
So that moment shift my eyesight. No matter if I try to go back, I can't go back. So the merging with the grief chair is, what are you good at? I'm good at hair.
Yeah.
I'm good at makeup. I'm good at making people feel good.
Yeah.
So now it's about that place you went that God allowed me to see. I can now merge them too to help people understand.
Yeah.
One day you're going to change, and it's going to be something in you that change, and it might come from, most likely it will come from pain. And when it comes, make sure that you can see somebody else, or make sure that somebody else can see you in that moment, so you can get the help you need. So it's important to me to get this message out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your courage.
Thank you. I don't want to mess my
Tears are
makeup up.
welcome.
I know,
Tears
right?
are welcome. Listen, two things on the heels of that. In the African American community, we traditionally, we do funerals so well.
Listen,
we can pull together a funeral and a celebration of life like no
0.5
other
seconds.
people, right? But to your point, no one shows us how to sit in and manage and name even the feelings that are associated and connected. I sadly buried my parents that raised me. My biological parents are still living. And I can recall very distinct pieces of the service and things that I did, and even the mind frame that I was in. You couldn't tell me I wasn't organizer extraordinaire in the moment, right? I can recall just every detail, but I can't recall, even to this moment, the times that someone said, how are you doing? No, how are you really doing?
Right.
And I was able to give an honest answer. And so I am 20 plus years removed in both instances.
Yeah.
Right? Almost, 20 plus years for my mom and a little under that for my dad. And there are moments where I have to just will myself to cry because something just wells up.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, I find myself like, hey, pull it together.
Get it together.
Pull it together. It's okay. They're with God, doing all the things. But sometimes I just need to give myself, and I'm saying this so you all can help me be accountable. Sometimes I do just need to fall apart. Because my life has fallen apart. Life that I knew will never be the same. I'm not going to say that life doesn't get better, right? After the passing or after the loss or after some sort of situation, some traumatic event where you perhaps lose a part of yourself as a result. But I'm not going to discount what I feel either.
Yeah.
Perhaps if I do the work and I empower myself, I can move to a place of healing, but I don't have to run the quickest race to get there.
Right.
Right? I don't have to run the quickest race to get there.
Yes.
Sometimes I just need to slow stroll. Stop and smell the flowers every now and again. Or not. Be like, I hate flowers because this is horrible. And these flowers look like
allergies.
Whatever
Like
it is,
sneezing.
I'm glad that we are able to kind of laugh in this moment, but we all have been at that place of where pain meets our reality. And what then do you do with that? We could go on and on, all three of us. We could pass these mics or just talk in these mics for the whole, for hours and hours about, oh, this is my story. This is my story. Oh no, this is my experience. This is and then this happened. But as we are moving, even if it's just one small step at a time to help others navigate the journey, find hope and find healing, laughter comes with that.
Absolutely.
Laughter comes with that. And we are sisters in Christ. And so we know that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so with that joy, sometimes you have to hold both. Sometimes you have to hold joy and sadness.
Pain.
Sometimes you have to hold pain, joy and pain. Sometimes you have to hold laughter and tears.
Right.
So it's not one or choosing one over the other.
Yeah.
It's an and both situation.
Right.
Right? Wow. We never have enough time, but we're going to wrap up in just a few minutes, but I want you to complete this statement. So I have some words. I'm going to ask you the statement, and I'm going to ask you to complete the sentence in your own way. All right? Grief is hard. What would you add to that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Grief is healing.
Absolutely. Like, agreed.
Agreed. Absolutely. Right? Grief is raw. Start with you.
Grief is raw and messy. And messy.
You got something for that one? Grief is raw.
Grief is raw and honest.
Grief is normal.
And honest.
And abnormal. Miss Angela, grief is normal.
Grief is normal. I had the word. Let's see, hold on. It's going to come back. Grief is normal and acceptable.
Yeah.
Accept it.
That's one thing humanity will share as a collective.
Right.
We're going to share the burden of having to hold grief.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yep.
Be it the loss of a pet, the loss of the goldfish.
Right.
Listen, people call the counseling center for all kind of losses. I had a wardrobe. I lost my whole life in a fire. I lost, right? Collectively, as the human fabric in this world, we all, which I don't understand why we're not more loving toward one another, but that's a topic for a different day, because we all are holding so much.
Right.
Yes.
Right? The grief and loss of dreams.
Hello. The sacrifices. That's a grief
The grief and
conversation.
loss of sacrifice.
Yeah.
The grief and loss of being in a position of service.
Yeah.
Right? Grief is love.
I think Max said it earlier.
Misplaced.
Yeah.
It's
Misplaced.
love
misplaced.
misplaced. You just,
Yeah.
just can't
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah, like the love you have for a mom. No one else gets to have that.
Right.
They don't. That's why it's misplaced.
That's why it's
That's why
misplaced.
it's misplaced.
Yeah.
And it's you have to be careful though. You can find it. You can get it from places, but you have to know that it's because something is misplaced.
Yes.
So that's how I continue with the grief,
Yeah.
how I handle it. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that love is misplaced.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I feel something, and then
Mm-hmm.
I know again, oh, that's that love I felt before, and now I can kind of go on with
Yeah.
knowing,
Yeah.
oh, it's out here, it's around me. I just gotta be present enough to see it when it comes
there.
again.
Yeah.
But the physical person or whatever we're
Yeah.
grieving,
Yeah.
it's misplaced.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I can't find my watch, like you
Right,
said. So you're just
right.
not gonna find it.
Yeah.
But I know if I see a watch one day and I'm like, oh, girl, that reminds me of my watch that I
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
So it kind of make me okay to know I got something misplaced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have to be careful around, though, love being misplaced. I love that narrative, but we got to be careful that we don't become reckless
Yeah.
in finding a replacement,
Oh my gosh, yes.
right?
Yes, yes.
Because the pain will draw us to stuff that instant gratification, the things that make us
Yes.
feel good, people, places, things, right? Taste.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All the wrong bed partner,
Yes.
the wrong drug, the wrong.
Yes.
Listen, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Right? Looking to feel or fulfill.
Fulfill something.
Deep with love misplaced.
Yeah.
That did.
Yeah, so we've got to be, but that comes back to how we started this conversation. You have to become very much aware
Right.
of what's happening and what you need in a positive sense versus a negative, and
Right.
what the difference is. Like,
Right.
what really is it that you need? If you are acting out, let's just say if you are exhibiting behavior that is not typical of you,
Right.
right? Got a bad attitude, you're acting out, you're cursing, you're doing the things. Is that really the focus of the problem?
Right.
Or is it an outcry for something
Something
else
else.
that you
Yes.
really need?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
It definitely is. I have a lot of experience. in it. It
Yeah.
definitely is.
So that's the work you bring. So
Yeah.
that's when you're ready to come
Come
to
to
counseling.
counseling. Yes.
Not just because you're sad about the law. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be sad. Part of the grief steps, depending on who you ask, there are 5 to
Yes,
7 of them.
7.
And as you said
It's
and alluded
11
to
now.
earlier,
11.
is it?
Yes, I read somewhere
What is added onto
It's
this?
11. Yes, it's 11.
My God. But you said something earlier about grief not being linear.
Yes.
It's not linear.
Yes.
And so you may be in shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, testing, acceptance. I got 7. Okay, so y'all look up the
That's
other
the
4,
book-
right?
that's the book
That's Kubler. That's
definition.
right.
Yes.
That's Kubler
Yes.
Ross's Kubler Ross and David Kessler to their work together. And kudos for them for all the work that they've done. And I'll give you all some resources in just a moment as we get ready to wrap up. You may navigate through all of those out of order, though.
Yep.
Right.
Complete.
Complete.
Out of order.
Yep, out of order. And some will gang up on you
At the
and
same
multiply
time.
at the same
At
time.
the same
And
time.
manifest at the same time.
Yes.
You can be shocked, depressed, and trying to accept this all at the same time. That's why grief is messy.
Yes.
It's
yes.
messy.
It's messy.
It's messy.
It's messy.
We kept saying earlier, it's ghetto.
so ghetto.
It's ghetto.
So overrated.
Overrated.
So So
you gotta bring in a little culture, right?
yeah. The one that's standing out
Yeah.
when you in your stages
Yeah.
is the one that's telling you you're in all of them. So it's always like, oh, I'm in anger, and it's like, but I'm
I'm sad
but I'm this,
too.
and I'm
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
then it's like, oh, but how can I be at all of them at
All of
one
them.
time?
All of
Oh,
them.
you can.
You
And
can
both.
be,
Yeah.
And you
I think you mainly will be. And then they shed off, and then it's like, oh, I'm now just happy.
Right.
Now I'm just angry. But I think they all come at once,
Yeah.
because like, how you gonna bargain with grief?
Yeah.
I really was like, I don't understand
Yeah.
how I'm gonna
Yeah.
bargain with
It's
this.
more so the bargain with God.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly. So like, just if I can share the
Yes,
quick story.
please.
So those of you that know me and know my mom, so Mama passed away from vaginal cancer.
Okay.
And I remember the doctor calling and saying, so she's just not doing well at all, and we're gonna, we're recommending hospice, right? And I remember saying, okay, just as nonchalant as I possibly could, because I did not understand what this person just said to me on this phone. But I remember going home and just sitting there, and I'm like, God, you're kidding me right now, right? So this is when so I started this grief process long before the passing.
That's premature grief.
It was
That's
premature
right.
grief,
Yes.
right? So I started it way beforehand, and I'm bargaining with him at this point, like, God, if we just do this, or if we just do that, can we just keep her around a little longer? Like, or if she comes home and I start doing this, and we get her in this, and whatever it was I was saying, can this happen?
Yeah.
And I actually remember Mama came home on a Sunday, and it was Tuesday night, early Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, because she passed away on a Wednesday. And I remember that morning where I sat in my living room floor and I begged God, take this from her. This makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
This woman right here should not be going through this at all. Why is this happening to her? And I sat in my living room floor and I was like, God, can we listen. If you keep her, then I'll do what I'm supposed to do. I'll do exactly what I'm supposed to do. I'll walk in my purpose, because I just kept feeling like I was running from my purpose for so long. I'm now bargaining everything that has to do with me.
Wow.
Like, I'll do my purpose. And I just kept feeling Holy Spirit say, I need you to go in the room and let her go. Let her go. And I'm like, but I don't want to. And I did that, oh my gosh, Reverend LaTasha, I did that for maybe 4 or 5 hours that morning.
Wow.
And so that's what bargaining looks like in so many words, in so many levels. Like, you just bargain. To this day, I find myself bargaining.
Yeah.
Not to bring her back, but now I have this sense of, Mama passed away from cancer. All right, God, now if I do what I'm supposed to do, I don't need cancer. So it's just stuff that just falls on you. So bargaining isn't necessarily like I'm bargaining with God to keep the person here.
Oh, no,
it can, you know, say like it's, you know, just like it's not all the way that, but you know.
But I gotta get something
But
better.
I gotta get something
God.
better out of this. Like you did what you took her from me. Now I'm finding myself continuing to bargain with him about certain things, because I don't want my kids to experience what I've experienced. I find myself like, okay, bargaining with myself as far as financially is being concerned. Like, okay, I need to start saving money, because my mama didn't have a place to be buried. She didn't have all of that stuff in line. So now I find myself, okay, I got to get all of this stuff in order. And it's like, I'm only 38 years old, but you don't know the day, you don't know the time.
Yeah.
So that's where I get the bargaining. I'm still bargaining, girl.
Yeah.
I'm still bargaining.
I love that you even connected that to your noun purpose, right? Like, and so that's part of the healing process. If we can move through the healing process, we'll then be able to see how that pain bore purpose. And I know that's kind of in the cliche realm. That's not, no pun intended, but it really does. Because if we do the process, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but if we go through the process, we do find purpose on the
Right.
journey.
You do.
You find out who you are. You find that you give yourself permission to lower or change the expectation that
Yeah.
maybe was set for you.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Right.
with grief and death, it's a closed door. But where one door is closed, it's going to be another one
Right.
open.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of you walking through that door
Yeah.
and seeing the light at the
Right.
end of the
Yeah.
day. So that closed door may be your
Yeah.
darkness that we were talking about, but let's open it up and see what's on the
Right.
other
Yeah.
side.
Right.
Like you even share how your part of your process was a whole brand new position that hadn't even been
Oh, when I-
publicized yet.
Right.
Your process, how you are the person doing celebrity
Right.
hair, makeup, and are ministering to them in a
Right.
way
And
because of the grief and
grief,
experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And me, a therapist.
Who would have thought?
Who would have
From
thought?
Washington, D.C.
From what? Listen, girl, Southeast DC.
Southeast DC.
What's up? Pennsylvania Avenue. Listen. So, listen, we, again, as we shared, we could go on and on and on having this conversation. One, because it is healing. And so that's part of your work. Get with someone, have some conversation about where you are so that one, you can begin to sit in it.
Right.
2, you can become more aware of what you need.
Yeah.
3, you can begin and learn how to empower yourself beyond the moment of loss, right? That there is light that you can move toward, toward. That's the word I want to use. Yeah.
Right.
That there's light that you can move toward, that there is purpose in the pain. And that although we are kicking and screaming and asking God why all the way, ultimately we still can trust God,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
We still can trust God. So as we wrap up, this episode is going to go a little long, so y'all email me and complain or tell me you all did a great job. I'll take them all. Questions, complaints, I'll
of
take
it.
them all. I'll take them all. But as we get ready to wrap up, in all seriousness, if there were a point or two outside of the ones that I just kind of summarized that we've covered in our conversation, what would you share? What would you share for someone navigating grief and loss? What would your 2 points be?
For me now, I trust my body. Finally, I trust my body. I trust the voice that I hear. I trust when I feel anything, because that's the truest version that I can
beautiful.
see and feel and hear, because it's inside of me.
Yes.
If you trust in that, it'll let you know wherever you at with grief.
Yeah.
And trusting that could be, I need to go sit at the cemetery because she felt something coming over her body.
Yeah.
So my words of giving away would be, trust your body.
Yeah.
If you trust your body, everything else will flow.
Yeah.
Everything else will flow,
Yeah.
especially in grief, because it's a feeling.
Yeah.
So you're going to feel it, trust it, process it, walk on with it.
Yeah.
Walk with it.
I love that you said that. And hopefully in this new year, the Office of Christian Care and Counseling will bring to you an understanding around internal family system. And that is at the core of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Self is at the core.
Yes.
And self is the uncontaminated, the part that hasn't been messed up by our experiences, that God part of us that's deep down in the center of who we are.
Right.
We've got all these parts of ourselves kind of orbiting around self, but if we learn how to trust self, it's the truest form of transparency, vulnerability, and honesty that we'll ever tap into. So I love that you said that.
I'm so grateful that you just said that to me, because it just gave me a boom in my everything. My Holy Spirit is present. I realized that I couldn't hear when I was really in my grief. I couldn't hear God. And that's what really made me isolate. It's because I couldn't hear that voice that you're saying. it's like I can't. It's too much going on. I can't hear.
Too much.
Too much.
Too
So
many
it's
other
like
voices,
I have
though, right?
to do this to do that, and that is something that you just kind of gave me an answer to what that is.
Yeah.
Because I constantly will go like, they say moody, and it's not moody. I'm just removing myself because I literally can't hear.
Yeah.
I say God, but it's my inner voice. I can't hear my thought. I can't hear what I'm supposed to do right now because it's like
Cloudy.
this.
Yeah.
So
That's the benefit of sitting in the pain, as you all said.
sitting in the pain.
Sit in the pain.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know. This
Wonderful
was good.
connection.
Right.
Wonderful connection. You have a point or two?
So I have my core values of building the queen within. So I have them right here. So if you see me looking down.
Awesome.
So the one thing that I say is I'm actually graphing through my grief. So graph actually stands for something.
Okay.
Yes.
So G, it's okay to grieve.
Okay.
Some people just feel like, I'm sorry. Some people say it's not okay. Like, you got to stop grieving. It's a time period.
Yes.
It's okay to grieve. I don't care if it's 2 days, 10 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
You are allowed to grieve.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so do that. And you are resilient. God made you this way.
So true.
So you are resilient.
Right.
The next one is learn to accept the cards dealt. Death is inevitable.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away from this. You cannot run from this. So learn how to sit within your grief.
Right.
You will persevere through all things. Again, God is going to be there with you through it all.
Yeah.
So let's learn to do that. And then the last thing is remain hopeful. Remain hopeful.
I love
so
that.
I graph my way through grief.
That's awesome.
good.
Thank you so much for sharing
welcome.
that. Listen, if you want to follow Miss Angela, you can follow her on IG. Look at me. You can follow her on IG at Building the Queen Within. That's all one statement,
word.
all together. If you want to follow, so not if, follow Miss Angela and follow Miss Mac. Her IG is The Grief Chair.
Yes.
All one word, all
word.
together. They will provide motivational information. They will provide safe space. They will provide just encouragement along this journey. And again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Listen, we might have to come back with part 2, so stay tuned. I want to close us out as we get ready to go with this statement or this quote. I'm going to give some resources in the chat when this airs. But this is an amazing book by Marissa Renee Lee. It's called Grief is Love. And she navigates through a number of different losses, including the loss of her mom in this book. And I want to close with this. Who would I be once she was gone? And you insert the pronoun of your person. This is the part of death that I wanted to run the farthest from. We all do. However, I failed to understand that the death of a loved one, of someone you hold dear, should change you. That is their mark on the world. You are their mark on this world. In order for you to become someone's legacy when they die, you are required to change. Your transformation is their legacy. Your transformation, your change in perspective, the myriad of other ways in which you know you are no longer the same because your beloved father, adoring wife, hilarious best friend, or younger brother are no longer here. That is their legacy. You are their legacy. And so in this space, we say thank you, God. We may not understand all the aspects that come with grief and loss, but what we know is that you have never left or given up on us.
Yeah.
And so for every person that connects with this topic for one reason or another, remind them that you are near, that resources like these are available, and that there is safe space for them to navigate the moment one step at a time. Thank you for this sister circle, that you've allowed us to come together and share in a very vulnerable way to help someone realize that healing and hope and grief can all share the same sentence, and that together we navigate this 365 days. It is in the matchless name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
May you all be blessed. May the substance and the provision of our amazing God keep you until we meet again.